Rico Figliolini with Mighty Rockets Digital Marketing and the publisher of the Petrie Corner magazine. Hey Rico, how you doing?
Good, Carl. It's a beautiful day considering how much rain we had the other day and into the
I know,
morning.
I
So,
know. The storm is come past,
yeah.
and now we're hopefully get some better days going ahead. Things are getting cooler for the fall.
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce our sponsors?
Yes, lead sponsor is Hargrave Fiber. Hargrave Fiber is a Southeast based company that does internet connectivity. They handle fiber optics, which is the main drive of any internet home or office, right? So they're in the communities that they serve as well. So they're not your cable guy, right? They're not a company that just has an office there. They're involved in the communities that they're in, whether they're involved with local companies. So, for example, in Peachtree Corners, they're involved with Curiosity Lab at Peachtree Corners, with the city. They're providing internet connectivity to a lot of companies in the area. So, if you are interested in fiber optics in a company that's local, that has a local presence, and that can give you the tools you need, like smart office tools to be able to operate your employees at home or in the office, reach out to hargravefiber.com, or you could go to hargrave.com/business. And they have a promotion going on, $1,000 Visa gift card for those companies that qualify becoming a client of theirs. So check them out.
Well, that's fabulous. Everyone needs more internet, more speed, and
Yes.
glad to have good businesses like Hargrave in our community to help business owners with that.
Sure.
Well, today I am honored and pleased to have a great guest who, in this fourth quarter, as we're coming in rounding out 2020, most business owners have seen all sorts of impacts. Some have grown, some have stayed the same, some have actually seen some reduction in their customer. But what I know for sure, if you're going to have a great fourth quarter and start off 2021 well, you got to focus on growth. And today we have Lisa McGuire here to talk about how small business owners can really focus their marketing and sales efforts in concert to help them really have a springboard to their growth in 2020 through 2021. Hi, Lisa. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Karl. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, pleasure. Well, Lisa McGuire is a business growth and advisor and a marketing consultant with Open Window Marketing. And I'd love for her to introduce herself and tell.
Yeah.
So one thing we know is when business owners started their business, they wanted to do the work they love. They didn't necessarily want to wear all the hats that a business owner has to wear when running a business. So what I do is I come in and help them determine how to figure out who their ideal client is, how do they connect with that client, what message does that client need to hear to be able to engage with them, and then how to grow their business through marketing that works. And then it filters into the other areas: productivity, the mission of their company, the culture of their workforce too.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, I look at a lot of P&Ls for business owners, and one of the things that really becomes apparent, I look at how one business owner spends on marketing, and ask them question about that, and then I look at another one who may not do a lot of marketing. You'll hear a lot of, I grew my business through referrals and so on. And I realize there's a big difference when you look at the performance of growth, those that focus on that marketing versus those that don't. So, but when they start business, they didn't really think about that. Well, what are some of the mistakes you see business owners making when it comes to marketing their business in general?
Yeah, just kind of marketing their business in general, what they're looking at. They're looking at, okay, what is it that I have to sell, and how can I push it out to get as many people to buy it as possible? They're not looking at it from the customer perspective of what do they need to hear. All they know is I've got this many widgets to sell, or I've got to book this many billable hours, and what can I do to make people buy from me? And so what they end up doing is they've got this message they repeat over and over that isn't connecting with their client. They put a lot of money into tactical things. They'll do Facebook ads. They'll pay a lot of money for SEO to get people to come to their website. But what happens is the message that they're using either to get people there or once they are on the site, it's not converting because it doesn't matter to the customer. They talk about features, they forget about benefits.
Wow. Well, this year but got to be really interesting. For many businesses, because of the pandemic, their customers may have changed. Either new customers are coming to them, or what their existing customer needs have changed. How would you walk someone through looking at a situation like that?
Yes, and this has been a year that was unthinkable. We never could have imagined it. And so if you think about back to January, February, we had pre-pandemic customers. Things were going along. If you remember, just a couple months before that, we were celebrating a new decade. There were all kinds of analogies to 2020 vision. We're going to make this a decade that really makes a difference. And then the unthinkable happened. We had this global pandemic. And really the whole world, as far as the business world in the United States and probably across the globe too, just kind of came to a standstill. We were in a period, if you remember back, think when they said, if you just quarantine for a couple of weeks, we'll get through this. And so it was uncharted territory. So here's what we found with businesses. They did one of three things. They either continue with their marketing as usual, they used a different message and pivoted their message, or they said nothing at all. So if we look at those three things, continuing marketing business as usual would tell their customers, you're insensitive to what's happening in my life. Why are you going on acting like this world has not changed? The ones that went quiet, what happened is they made a space for other businesses to come in and take their place. But the businesses that won, the businesses that did well, were businesses who, first of all, acknowledged what was happening and became very empathetic to your customers. There was and continues to be, but initially, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, anxious, what's going to happen to my business? What's happening with my family? Am I in danger with my health? So making sure that you really understand that customer and who they are was really critical. So we heard a lot of messages. We're in this together. We heard the new normal. We heard all of those things to really unify our marketplace to be able to reach them. But now we're 6 months into this, 7 months into this, I guess it's 6. Now you've got a third type of customer. You've got the customer that is realizing, okay, this is our new way of life for now. We're moving forward. So what can we do? Our whole world has been disrupted. If you think about it, our work lives, our home lives, how we consume media, how we purchase, what we value, like everything has been shifted. So what can we look at with the customers, what they need now? And what the big idea to take away from this is, the customers that you had no longer exist. They are now pandemic customers. They have new problems. They have new priorities. So what do you need to do in your business to shift your product line and offerings to meet these new problems? Or if you still connect with their problems, how do you need to shift your message? And that is the advice I would give business owners heading into 2021. If you're using a pre-pandemic message, you're talking to a client who is no longer existing.
Lisa, what do you find from the clients that you talk to, from the companies you talk to, more effective, as far as business goes? What tools are they implementing? What are they changing that they weren't doing before the pandemic?
Well, I think the thing that has become very apparent to business owners is if you did not have an online presence, you need to have one. I'm very active in networking, and in those first couple of weeks, people were trying to figure out, how do we network if we can't go to coffee? How do we reach people? How are people going to find me? And, if you look at restaurants, they had to do a quick pivot. How do we get people to consume our food? How do we make them feel like they're safe? So being online and making sure that your customer experience online is seamless, that has been the big shift that I've seen with most people, is figuring out, okay, how do I go online
You know
and
what I,
products.
You know what's interesting? I think in the restaurant business, especially, it was easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you had Yelp, you had DoorDash, you had Grubhub, you had all these businesses. If you wanted food, you would go out and you find it. You know
Mm-hmm.
where you could go. Problem is with with a place that like a yoga place or a
Mm-hmm.
custom soap maker type of store, it's difficult, right? Because people
Mm-hmm.
aren't quite looking for that, and they may want it, but they just don't know. So there's that two-sided edge to that, right? You do. I agree with you. You have to be online, but it's way more difficult for some businesses than others, I would imagine.
Yes, definitely is. So we saw a lot of people in the health and fitness space go online and start having virtual yoga classes, things such as
Right.
that. We found brick and mortar stores suddenly had to have an e-commerce site. But the
Right.
other thing too, we have this opportunity of where we may have been marketing within a geographical area, is now we could extend our services, nationally. You can network nationally or internationally. I'm working with a couple of clients who did work with local Atlanta businesses or local Atlanta clients, and now their clients are all across the United States. So how do they find them? How do they reach them? How do they connect with them?
It's easy to understand the power of being online. And I visit business owners and I look at their websites all the time. And it's a pandemic in itself, how bad some of these websites are. People don't put a lot of attention. When you look at a website, someone doing it right, what are some of the things, maybe
Mhm.
not technical, but what are some of the things that you find helps business owners be more reachable and successful online?
Yeah. So the first thing, as we talk about websites, Karl, the thing I would invite people to do is, if you think you have a great website, look at two or three of your competitors and go to their websites. And what you're going to find, it's very likely you're all saying the same thing. So what you have to do is figure out, how am I going to stand out? There's a couple of different ways to do that. So the immediate piece of advice I can give all your listeners today, you can go and do this and start making money tomorrow, is make sure you have clear call to action buttons, and you want them all over your homepage. So you want one in the upper right hand corner. In that hero shot area, you want one in the middle of that hero shot area, and make sure those call to action buttons are a different color than the rest of your website. Make sure they're the same color throughout as you cascade down the page. As you scroll down the page, make sure there's always a call to action button in the screen as well as in the upper right hand corner, because here's what happens. The visitor may not be ready to purchase from you, or may be ready to take the next step with you initially, but as they scroll down the page and start learning more about you, oh, now I want to know more. And so you want to make it convenient. We call that call to action button your cash register. So why would you hide your cash register in the back ladies' room? You want to make sure they're all over the place, right? So that's one thing you can do to start making money today. So that's one thing. If that's helpful to you,
It
uh,
is.
yeah.
No, that's great advice. The other thing is there's this thinking around Google pay per clicks and Facebook ads and so on. How do business owners use those to integrate with their website?
Yeah, so there certainly is a place for paid ads, and the thing is you start with your website. You want to make sure that Google recognizes your website as a quality website too. So I'm gonna answer your question, Karl, but I'm gonna kind of connect these two. Um, First of all, Google's going to try and watch and monitor to see, are people, when they're on your website, are they staying on it long? If they can register that they're staying on it long, that signals to Google there is quality content on there. So again, your message is so important. So when you go to a website, you should be able to immediately know what the business does. It is astounding the number of business websites I see. I can't tell what they do. I have to know what you sell. What do you do for me? Making sure that you are updating content. And so that would be having a blog on your website, talking about topics that people have questions about. And, people say, I don't know what to write in a blog. Think about this. What are the top 5 questions people ask you about your business? Those will be your first 5 blog topics. And so putting those on there, that's going to give you some organic reach with with SEO in that. But then when you get to ads, paid ads, that's when you can drive people to your website, whether it's Facebook ads and Google ads. And I recommend not trying to do it yourself. Work with a digital marketing specialist who knows what they're doing. I believe in paying experts for what they know so well.
There's a subset of business owners that I know struggle in this space, and it's in the professional services, lawyers, accountants, etc. Very smart, very talented in their choosing profession, but when it comes to marketing themselves, maybe not as strong, and their content can be confusing to the layman, explaining the intricacies of tax law or how to get over a speeding ticket or whatever that might be. For those types of businesses, how can their messaging on their website help them? What would be something they can do to guide people in?
Yeah, so a really great way to do that, because, here's the thing. We want those experts. And when you need someone like that, you want someone who knows what they're doing, who knows all the intricacies and, the ins and outs of how to practice their profession very well. But what happens is when you speak with them, because they are so educated and they're so good at what they do, you'll find a lot of times they tend to use